Hello, and welcome to Horror Movies and Shit. I'm your host, Jim. Mark can't be with us today, and he's going to be very disappointed when he finds out you're from Ireland because my co-host Mark grew up in Northern Ireland.
Well, I'm just on the in Dundalk, which is like 10 to 15 minutes drive across the border. Well,
Oh, nice.
right
Nice.
on the border.
That's fantastic. So today we're talking to Barry Keating. Barry, it's nice to meet you.
Likewise.
I was lucky enough, thanks to Nikki, to be able to get a copy of Invoking Yell, which is, as I understand it, your latest offering, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I have some questions.
If I hopefully I can answer them.
So first, let's do you have social media and stuff? Like, is there any place people can follow you if they want to check out your other stuff?
I mean, I'm on Facebook. I don't really kind of. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, but I don't really kind of use it enough. But to be perfectly honest.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. So tell us a little bit about your previous works. Like I was looking you up on IMDb, and you have a lot of different writing credits.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of well, Patricia and I have worked together on a number of projects in the past. We were connected by a mutual friend, a chap called Lawrence Kirchy, who's a producer. And initially, I was working with Milan Todorovic and Milan Konjovic on a sequel to their movie Zone of the Dead. We were doing Wrath of the Dead with Ken Faree, but it never kind of came to fruition. And Lawrence was one of the producers, and he kind of connected me with Patricio, and so like that's kind of where we started. And I think it was Downhill was the first one we did. No, we had done a home invasion one that never kind of took off. It was Downhill, the Ghost of Garib, Night World. There's Embryo. Yeah, there's a lot of different things on there. We did some short movies like Snow Devil, and then obviously the recent one is
Right.
Invoking Yell. But yeah, kind of pretty much everything I've done is in the horror genre. And then I also work in video games, and that's covers everything really from sort of sports games to racing games to action stuff, kind of a wide berth of genres.
Have you always been interested in the horror genre? Like, is that what you set out to write, or is that just something that sort of happened?
No, I mean it's a complete and utter obsession from a small age. My aunt used to own a video store, and so from a very young age I was kind of down there and you know plonked in front of a television and watching movies that I shouldn't have been watching. Like any good horror fan, it will tell you that they were watching things at a very young age, and I kind of snowballed from there. That obsession with horror movies, and I just kind of, I mean, you can kind of see it here. Like there's so much more behind you, behind the camera here.
Right.
Collectible figures and horror stuff. But yeah, always been interested in horror, and I actively pursued wanting to work in the genre. I think it's a great genre.
That's awesome. So what so far, and like I said, we'll get to Invoking Yell, but I first wanted to talk about some of your other work. What was your first passion project? Like what got you into the screenwriting and filmmaking and all that sort of stuff?
I mean, I guess like I guess like from a very young age, I was watching horror movies and
Yeah.
watching movies in general. And then when I kind of started to discover the concept of like what the people behind the scenes, like the director names and recognizing things, and then writers. And then I had always kind of had an interest in writing. And I remember my dad, he went away on holidays, and they came back with a copy of, I think it was like the script for Shallow Grave Train Spotting and that's when the first time I kind of got a look at what an actual screenplay was like. And I was a bit late kind of coming to it, but then I started to really kind of get an interest in it, picking up obviously all the Tarantino stuff. Faber Publishing used to do all these, they published all the great scripts like the Coen Brothers stuff and the
Right.
Scorsese ones, and I was buying all those and just kind of eating them up. But in terms of like a passion project, I don't think there's any one specific project that kind of just got me into. I knew I wanted to write, and I fell in
Right.
love with it, and so I started to just basically like devour screenplays, and then obviously we got the internet in our house, and it was like, oh my god, I can. There's a massive you know collection of scripts on the site, so I was printing those out and reading those. I remember it was like Aliens versus Predator was one that the Peter Briggs one that all these great stuff. And so yeah, I just kind of gobbled it up.
Right.
That's kind of where it came from. So I don't think any one specific film or moment. But I mean, there's stuff that I always love. I was a huge fan of. I still like Clerks. I remember, and obviously Tarantino kind of came on the scene,
Yep.
Reservoir Dogs and stuff like that. But yeah, just kind of I kind of got obsessed with just all sorts of different types and genres of films and seeking out, especially around the '90s when the independent scene was really booming and stuff. So
Right.
that was interesting.
So what does your process look like? Do you just get hit with an idea when you start to write, or
It varies so wildly. There's times where, for example, like Patricio with Downhill, it was kind of we were banging our heads against the wall trying to figure out what would we do for the next project because the home invasion thing didn't take off. So it was like I think we were talking about, oh, wouldn't it be cool to do something in extreme sports and then downhill mountain biking, and then we're like, well, what do we then let's put a almost a Lovecraftian kind of spin on it and go a bit wild. So that's kind of how that kind of came to fruition. But the other times it's I've been approached with like a one page outline or a paragraph or in some instances I remember with the Ghost of Monday, the one we did with Julian Sands, one of his last films. It was very much like there's a hotel. It's in the middle of lockdown. There's a hotel that's dormant, and let's try and write something around this place because we have this entire place to shoot in
right?
during COVID. So that's kind of how it's happened. It's kind of it's very it can be or it can be an idea that comes to me, but yeah, lots of different ways these things kind of come to fruition.
What was it like working with Julian Sands? Like, I mean, he's an icon, right?
Well, it was
Everybody
during
knows his
COVID.
name. Yep.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it was during COVID, so I was stuck here in Ireland, so it was just like working on the script. But I did get to meet him at Fright Fest very briefly for the screening of the film, and he was a gem.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, it's Julian Sands. Like Warlock is one of those great sort of when I was a teenager, those VHS discoveries where you're like
Yes.
just a great film. And I rewatched it recently, and then I didn't realize as well because I kind of go down a rabbit hole, like obsess over something again, and I
Right.
saw like they made a video game of it as well, and
Yep.
it was just I was like, wow, they did so much with that one. But yes, he was my very brief moment with him. He was a gem.
That's awesome. That is awesome. But you've worked with some other industry greats, right? Like, if I'm not mistaken,
It
you
was
you
Robert
worked with
England,
Robert
yeah.
Englund on a project?
Yeah, on Night World, which Patricio directed. Again, I was the thing is, I'm laughing at seeing this in the previous interview. I a lot of all the stuff I've written and worked on, I've actually never had a chance to go on set because I've been usually tied up with other stuff, and
Right.
it's kind of it sucks a bit because I would have loved to have kind of been there and seen these things kind of be made and watch the process, but they've all I've worked with these people and briefly chatted with them online, exchanged a few emails. They're really cool. One gentleman in particular, for my first one, Killer Mermaid, Franco Nero, I did get to meet him in Belgrade when they screened the film, and he was lovely.
Yeah.
He was a real gentleman, very
So
nice man.
I was looking at Killer Mermaid earlier because I got it confused with another movie that I had already seen. But do you do you have a pro because when movies are released in different countries, right? A lot of times, sometimes they'll change the title, right? Like
Yeah,
Killer
yeah. Well,
Mermaid, I think
originally,
is also
uh,
called Nymph, right?
yeah, well, it's three titles. So in Serbia, it was Mamula, right, because of the island, and
Right.
then they called it Nymph, and then they called it Killer Mermaid. So yeah, I mean, they kind of, I think like I would have preferred just leave it at Mamula, to be
Right.
perfectly honest.
It's just it's funny that different titles appeal to different audiences, and but do you find that it makes it more difficult when you're approaching another project to keep the movie straight? Because I mean, my memory sucks personally, so I don't know that
Yeah,
I'd be able to do it.
keep what now?
To
Keep
keep the
what?
titles of the movie straight. Like if you're
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. Like, I mean, I kind of always laugh when it's like, "What did you work on?" And I always say, "What was your first film?" Like, Killer Mermaid, because it's such a ludicrous title to be
right.
quite honest. And so it's like it's a good icebreaker. Anyway, I'll tell you that.
So of the what this is your ninth time collaborating with Patricia, right? If I'm not
It's
mistaken.
it's my I think it's my ninth film, but I think with us it must be about five or six.
Five, right? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. What a
So which one of the projects that you've collaborated on so far is your favorite?
I have to say. Downhill really have a sort of soft spot for it because it was the first one that we got off the ground, and I just was it was just a great fun writing it. You know, when we were coming up with the idea for it and like bouncing the storyline back and forth, and then just writing it. And then he was, you know, the financing came together, and then they got some deals in place, and it was like we're going off, and we're, you know, they shot it, and he was just sending me like tons of pictures and all the cool stuff on the location. There's just that one is I've got very fond memories of that because it was just when I was kind of starting out because I got Killer Mermaid, and then that sort of opened the door for me, and it was just around this period of time where I think it was Downhill. I wrote in the space of a year. I think it was Downhill, Ghosts of Garb, Night World. So it was like three or four all in one year that got made, and it was just a great year, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And
Absolutely.
then, but yeah, for that one, I think Downhill just have a real soft spot for that, to be honest. But
That's awesome. So from a writing perspective, let's talk about not necessarily movies that you've made, but movies that you watch from a writing perspective, what is it that really hooks you into a film? What is it that gets you to really get invested in a film?
yeah, I really like, you know, it kind of has to kick off strong for me. I find I kind of I lose interest if things meander a little for me. But I guess like I need to have a really kind of good strong hook and some interesting characters that I can kind of get on board with. You know, if the characters are annoying or kind of people I don't want to spend an hour and a half with, and actually I suppose nowadays movies are so long, you
Yeah,
know. I'm kind
that's
of like
true.
if it's a character that I don't like and I loathe from the get go, I just I mean, I'll stick with it. I don't walk out of movies in cinema, but I I don't. I find them unpleasant, you know. But yeah, I just need some the characters I can really get to that I can kind of get on board with when they go on this journey. Depending, obviously, like if it's a horror film, I like to kind of, you know, be on board with these people and kind of go on that journey with them. Then I guess I can relate to them. Like I saw Smile too, you know, the other day, and I thought that was cool. I really liked the first one. I thought
Yeah,
they just kind of took the second one and kind of turned it all the way up to, you know, 11, and it was a really kind of interesting take on it.
right. I saw Smile one, and I'll be perfectly blunt. I was not a fan because I don't think they took it far enough. So I'm
Yeah,
excited
yeah,
to see Smile two for sure.
yeah. It's fun. I mean, it's like this crazy concert movie with a horror twist, essentially. You
Right.
know?
Which we just saw with Trap too, right? Which
Yes, yeah,
that's a
yeah.
whole nother story.
That's it. That's yeah. That's. I mean, I gotta say, I watched that one. And I like.
It
I didn't hate it, but I could see that people have problems with it.
I don't hate it. It just it seemed to fall very flat for me personally.
Yeah, yeah.
But I just saw Terrifier 3 last night, and again, it falls flat for me. I'm not really a Terrifier fan.
I have to say, I must admit and confess, full confession, I've never seen any of them. I just haven't. They haven't kind of appealed to me. I will. I do need to watch them,
Yeah.
but I just haven't gotten around to it.
I like the appeal of Art, the character of Art the Clown, right? Because he's become an icon right now, right?
He has, yeah, yeah. Okay.
But in this one, he's all comic relief. He loses all of his creep factor, so it
Yeah.
sort of took me out of it a little bit. But anyway,
Yeah, I was just, I sort of I revisit quite a bit at the moment. The one I watched last night, The Faculty, because they got a
that's a
4K
great
release.
film.
Yeah, I've kind of find myself going back a lot, like, you know, especially when they get re-released. The one I picked up recently was this was great, like the Nightmare on Elm Street got the 4K treatment, and
Oh, nice.
I mean that was great. And then like I got the Hitcher as well. That's one that I'm very much looking forward
Rutger
to.
Hauer, nice.
Yes, yes. There's a 4K release there,
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah, it just I kind of obsess over buying these things, you know.
I get it. I have four bookcases behind me full of books and movies, so I get
Yeah,
it.
I'm looking. I'm literally looking here behind the computer. It's just literally just walls of like movies.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a bit about Invoking Yell. How did that project come about for you guys?
um, well, so basically, Patricio was kind of in a bit of a rut. I think is probably the best way to describe it. He wasn't sure what he wanted to do creatively next, and I guess I think it was he was talking to Alan Jones, one of the founders of Fright Fest, and kind of Alan kind of had a conversation with him and spurred this on, and so he started to mull what it was he wanted to do next, and then he kind of came to me with the concept of like, you know, this, you know. Blair Witch, like sort of ode to Blair Witch, the black
Right.
metal, and these three girls who go out into the woods to to record Psychophony, and that's how it kind of you know just kind of came about. And I was like, yeah, that's quite interesting, and perhaps this could happen. And it was really just honestly like a lengthy conversation over a period of time on Facebook where we just mess on Messenger. That's how we kind of keep in touch there, and it's just like the idea kind of came about from there, and then we kind of bounced some emails back and forth, and just helping with structure, and that's kind of where it came from.
Okay. Um, so I'm curious about the story. I'll be honest. I did not like the two main characters. And that's generally why I don't watch found footage race because a lot of
Yeah,
times the characters are so unlikable. But there's a
yeah, yeah.
reason that I really wound up enjoying this film, and we'll get to that
Hmm.
once we get to the spoiler part of it. But
Yeah.
the two main characters to me were utterly obnoxious. They
Yes,
were
completely. Yeah, yeah,
they they were I mean, because we all know people that think that they're very creative
yeah,
and
yeah,
they push it a little too far and they just get annoying, right? Um,
yeah, yeah. I think they kind of ran with it like that because it's that sort of, I guess like we're a black metal band and like
yeah,
we think we're better than you
right.
and we're fuck the world and yeah, all this pardon my language. That's sort of the way I think they kind of approach it. And I know Patricio when he was directing them spoke about stuff like that. That yeah, they have a chip on their shoulder, I think, and I
Right.
can and you can see why like and they ran with that. And of course, they can
Yeah.
be you'd be like, oh man, not the
I
kind of
mean,
people who want to spend too much time
right.
with.
But they do a really good job of making them unlikable, right? And continuing
Yeah,
that trend through 95% of the movie.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I I don't want to get into too many spoilers, but the end of the movie for me was genius
yeah, yeah.
because, well, I'll
Yeah, I know.
I'll just
It's hard to talk with that.
yeah, it is. But I mean, so I'm just going to say this anyway because for whoever might be listening, and I can edit it out of the actual audio recording of the podcast. But the fact that the one sympathetic character does not fare well in this movie, like really did it for me. Like I loved that aspect of the end of this film
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
because
it was quite interesting. I was talking to Patricia about this just the other day, and it was like they really kind of sold it and the
yeah,
performances, and the fact that like we're just following these girls for like 60 odd minutes nearly
yep,
before, and we just they're saying things, they're doing things, and like they're rubbing some people up the wrong way, and
yep,
and some people will like them, some people won't. They're obnoxious at times, and then all of a sudden you have this, I guess like they sold that whole relationship very well,
yes, they did.
the way they performed, and
Yep,
and I think then when that switch is flipped, it's like oh well yeah, because it's quite jarring,
yeah.
But it was a great moment. I do remember watching some like early cuts of it and just saying
Yeah.
to Patricia like that's a great moment,
Yeah, absolutely. Like the whole point where, they realize that one of the girls realizes that they might have taken this initiation too far.
a little too
Like
far, yeah.
that was a great moment to see her go, "Oh crap," right? Like they did a really good job conveying her
Yeah,
going, "Okay, at first this was funny, now we're just doing too much," right? And
yeah.
and I loved that about it. But
But
at
like
first, what's that?
was it like you read? I mean, you read things about, I guess, like in stories and true crime stories about, cases where kids have, teenagers have done this thing, and you often
Yep,
wonder, there's one person that's committed 100%, and then there's the other
right,
person that's probably like, oh, actually, shit, we went too far, and
right.
yeah, it's quite interesting like that. That's what that kind of
It
stemmed
is,
from.
and that's one thing I have to say about all three of the actresses in the film. Like their performances were spot on. Like
Hmm.
their characters. I don't know if a lot of the dialogue was improv or they
Yes,
just
yeah, it was. Yeah, that was very much like a sort of scriptment, a
yeah
lot of improvisation, just giving them topics, and I guess Patricio just kind of also just saying, just be these girls, be
right.
these characters, and
And
see what happens.
they did a fantastic job with it because I don't feel a lot of times you can tell when a director gives that sort of direction because there's a few scenes where it might jump a little bit or subjects change in the middle of the scene or
Yeah.
whatever. But you didn't have that. It was very consistent between all three of the girls and the entire course of the movie. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, and shot over just a weekend. That's how quick it
Really?
was. Yeah, just an
Wow.
entire weekend. It was like they, if I remember correctly, arrived on Thursday and started shooting Friday, and he was on his way back home on a Monday.
Wow.
They were that on the ball, with
Right.
what he wanted, and also with the actors, just really just delivering.
Yeah, absolutely. I've noticed a trend in films like there's a lot of throwbacks to time when technology wasn't so ubiquitous. So I it almost feels like they have to do that because everybody's got a cell phone in their pocket, right? So they can access whatever they need to. So we
It's
sort of
it's
have to go back to the time where the 80s is now the 50s, right?
yeah. It is. It always. Like, it's so funny, actually. Like cell phones are like I guess like screenwriters' worst. Yeah, like worst enemy. I think,
Right.
and I always remember like on every project I've worked on, it's when you start breaking a story, things are always like, right, how do we get rid of the cell phones?
Right.
How do we cut off the communication so that we
Right.
can just get on with the story?
Right.
And going back in time seems to be the new thing, which is like where it's everything is more analog, and you're in the middle of the woods. You've no chance.
Right, exactly. That's what I mean. I do love a good folk horror, but at some point somebody's just got to pick up a phone, right? Because that's why we have cell phones.
Completely, yeah, exactly. So it is funny, but yes, definitely going back in time to a simpler time where it was you need a landline.
Right.
It's always a good solution.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what do you have coming up that you're working on? Anything exciting?
Film wise, no, not a whole lot at the moment. I'm working on a Christmas horror script with a couple of people. That's kind of just trundling along. I'm not sure kind of what's going to happen with it. I'm actually so my day job is video game writing, and
Okay.
I work with IOI, the people who make the Hitman games, and
Yep.
I'm one of the writers on James Bond. So that's
Oh,
pretty much my day-to-day focus right now until
right.
done.
Tell me more about Christmas horror. I love Christmas horror.
Yeah, it's this kind of working with a couple of Serbian filmmakers, and it's kind of what it's kind of gets into much. It's basically like people get stranded in the sort of Eastern European countryside. They stumble across this kind of small town with a dark past. But it's and the
Nice.
whole thing's kind of set around Christmas, so that's the sort of theme of it anyway. But
Yeah.
we're still tinkering. It's still only in the treatment phase, to be perfectly honest with you. So
Oh, but that's awesome though. I mean, because it can go anywhere, right? But it
completely,
does
yeah,
sound
yeah,
cool.
yeah. We've just been it's quite an interesting process because I've just been having calls with the director, and you know we just talk, which is great, and just kind of talk and break the story, and then we have like a mural board where we kind
Right.
of just get the whole thing out, and it's just great to be able to see it and visualize it and move it around. So this is the part that I love as well, because then when you go to do the actual sit down and write the script, it's kind of like, right, I'm on my own there, and
Right.
and and I have to finish it.
So do you find out because you've been writing what? I think your first credit on IMDb is from 2013. So that's 13 years, right? Do you find now that people approach you more than you having to shop your stuff around?
No, well, I have to say, like, I've been very fortunate in that I work with the same bunch of people over and over, and Loris in particular, he's been great because I worked with him and I delivered the goods for him. He always comes back. He's all
Right.
like I've just finished actually like a polished script for him on something that I don't know. So I'm not sure what's happening with it, but basically he kind of regularly reaches out and it's like, hey, let's do this. I've got this. I wrote an action film for him at the start of the year. Again, I'm not really sure kind of where it sits, um, but yeah, it's sort of sometimes I get this Christmas horror was one that kind of came by a word of mouth,
Right.
through a friend, my friend Milan, who directed Killer Mermaid. He met this guy, the director, and he was like, "Oh, you should talk to Barry." He and I work together, and so yeah, it is kind of word of mouth. But um, I would love to sort of, I guess, like send more stuff out into. I would love to find more time to write more of my spec stuff, some of the original ideas that I have, because they're just right now they just exist as one page outlines or short treatments or pitches or just even just in my head. I would love to generate more of my own stuff,
Right.
and get it out into the world.
So if you could work, let's explore that a little bit, right? If you could work on one project right now, one thing that you could write that would be your dream project, what sort of subject matter would you want to see? And who do you think could help you bring that vision to life?
Well, actually, I mean, I have a friend who is a we worked on a TV series together, the pilot, and he's based in Canada, and we just get on calls and we spitball ideas, and I came up with something about 3 weeks ago that he absolutely loved. It's a horror,
Okay.
it's sort of single location and sort of set somewhat in the world of video games. So it's kind of like what I've done, we do in real life. And ended up writing the treatment for it. He loves it, and he was like, "Dude, you got to write this." So I'm actually just about to start writing it this week. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, so it's kind of going to take a bit of a leap and sort of get this out and sort of push it out into the world if I can.
Well, that's exciting, right?
Yeah,
I mean, because you know the world of video games because that's what you do, right?
yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like a sort of video games with slasher movie twist and just all that sort of stuff. I'm just it's fun.
Yeah,
It was the whole thing that I kind of cooked up and pitched to him. He just was like, "Yeah, I'm buying every minute of this. Write it." So
that's
so
awesome.
yeah, so when he says that, I'm like, I probably should sit down and write this. Then.
Right? Absolutely. Are you a horror reader also?
I am from time to time. Yeah, I mean, I got my hands on stuff. The most well, actually not the most recent one, but what I just what arrived this morning was the Richard Lehman Beast series, which I remember I read the first one. I think it was The Cellar I read years ago, and then I saw on Amazon the other day they had a collection of it. And I was like, right, I want to get back. I'm going to reread that and then read the two sequels. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's who so who were some of your inspirations for your writing?
Well, I mean, I really like John Skip, the splatterpunk guy.
I love Splatterpunk.
Yeah, I mean, the light at the end was just such a great book. Um, John Skip and Craig Spector. They were kind of like the splatterpunk kings. Clive
Yeah.
Barker, obviously, Stephen King. In terms of writers and film, Wes Craven, Frank Darabont, and all stuff. This stuff. I mean, I still think the remake, well, his the Blob is such a great script.
It's
Um,
genius.
yeah, and I
Absolute
mean,
genius.
you can't really. I think it's a great script and a great film, and interesting that it hasn't actually been remade. But I just thought they did such a bloody good job of that.
They really did.
Yeah,
The remake far surpasses the original, which is rare, right?
yeah. And then, sort of, what I do find myself trying to do as well is to read a lot of screenplays. So whenever they release the Blood List, I'll take a look at what's on there and try and track those scripts down and read them. But yeah, a bit of everything. I'm trying to think like I like some like Wes Craven is through that. A lot of the old John Carpenter things I love. I love to read Walter Hill's draft of Alien is just incredible. The way it's
Yep.
written stylistically, and he in general, Hill's writing in general. So yeah,
Oh,
I love Kevin Smith movies.
yeah.
Like I, Clerks was a weird video store discovery for me on like one afternoon where I kind of wandered into this section of, I think it was stuck in the international film stuff, and it was black and white from the Tartan label, and
Right.
took it home and watched it. And that was like, oh my god, this was great. Yeah,
Well,
I like his scripts as well.
if you ever need Splatterpunk recommendations, just let me know. I got tons of
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
I
Yeah,
didn't think that I would like the more extreme books, but it turns out I really, really do.
yeah. Well, would you any particular authors you recommend?
K.L. Allister is an indie horror author. He's one of my favorites right now. If you're not too extreme and you want something that borders on extreme, I have Timothy King wrote a book called Seven Rabbits.
Okay,
It's like this side of splatter. Like
right.
it's brutal. Um,
Okay.
and then Patrick C. Harrison III wrote a
Oh
book called
yes, yeah. I connected with Patrick on Facebook. And he writes some really crazy one that I think
the
I saw he was posting the reviews Like,
The
you
dark side of hell is vile, and I loved every minute of it.
know, I'll have to grab something.
And if you like a little more bizarre with your splatter, Seamus Belial is really good.
Okay, I'll have
But
to check.
his stuff is brutal, but it's very, very bizarre. He's got a book about people who have physical abnormalities.
Right?
Like a woman has her lower regions replaced with the mouth of a wolf,
Jesus
and it just it gets bizarre. It gets
Christ.
so strange, but so bloody and just absolutely ridiculous. It's great.
Yeah, I'll have to go. You could probably get lost in a very deep and messy rabbit hole in the world of splatterpunk.
Absolutely, absolutely. But definitely K.L. Alistair. He's got four books out right now. Last Call is almost novelette length. It's less than 200 pages, but it's absolutely disgusting and great. Like it's about this guy that runs a bar, and these two guys show up and just decimate everybody. It's great. There's more to it than that, but I don't want to ruin it.
Okay.
And then his first book that I read was called Carnivores, which is about this elite, rich, society type where they just essentially brutalize people. It was fantastic.
Okay.
But
Jesus.
uh, so tell me about some of your favorite movies. Enough about books. Tell me about some of your favorite movies. Like what when you were a kid or even now, what are some of the things you enjoy watching?
I always kind of go back to like the old stuff. I mean, I love the Friday the 13th series. I really love those ones, especially like part eight. You know, Jason heading to Manhattan is just so
Really?
ludicrous and enjoyable. But yeah, it's just ridiculously enjoyable and silly. The Thing is another favorite. Nightmare on Elm Street. Maniac Cop. I have a soft spot for that. That's a kind of a good one.
Yeah.
Creep Show. Creep Show. Evil Dead, all anything Romero. I
Yeah.
love Dawn and
Absolutely.
Day.
I was looking, I have this new box set for the Friday the 13th, but I don't know where I have it at the moment. Back here somewhere. But it's all of the movies
Yeah.
in one giant box set.
Oh,
It's
I'm looking at it here. Is it the Scream Factory one? The big box?
yes. Yes,
Yes,
it
yeah,
is.
I've got it here. Yeah, that was a
Yeah,
great story.
I got that from Shout Factory a couple months ago, and I'm a big slasher fan.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I even if they're terrible, it still gets me on the edge of my seat no matter who I'm rooting for.
yeah,
I can't help myself. But then I always go back to like the horror comedies from the 80s like Critters, Gremlins, Ghoulies,
yeah.
always put me in a good mood.
I do like them, and you know, Reanimator as well. I do love that stuff. That's great. I suppose like any of the Charles Band ones, they were
Yeah,
always good fun. Just go
they
down
were.
and it was just kind of really enjoyable, silly films. But yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of find myself rewatching them. I guess like yeah, I do go back a lot of times to the '80s, and then I go back and watch, you know, from Scream onwards, when sort of like when Kevin sort of willing to create and Wes Craven created that, you know, slasher revival. I
Right.
kind of the Scream, the first two Screams, The Faculty. I know you did last summer, or you know, even Urban Legend is good. I
Yeah.
quite like go to that. You know, what is the one? Cherry Falls. Is that the one with Brittany Murphy?
I didn't care
That's
for
a
that one.
weird one.
Yeah, that was that and Darkness Falls, not so great. I
Darkness
didn't
Falls, yes. Well, the Tooth Fairy
yeah.
one.
Not a fan of either one of those, but I did absolutely love when Wes Craven branched out a little bit into They. I loved that movie. I thought
Mm-hmm.
it was ingenious. But I always tell everybody talks about, with Scream, the first Scream bringing the meta thing to the forefront. But Wes Craven did that in 1994 with The New Nightmare.
With the new Nightmare. Yeah, and it's funny actually. I remember it's weird how you kind of have these memories of things. I was still in school at the time, and I remember talking to my friend like on the Monday. He had gone to see it, and we were sort of just walking around the schoolyard on Monday talking about it. I don't understand it, and like, but they were in the movie, and then they were in the real. But he was just way ahead of his time, like
Yeah.
essentially. And
And
I just made perfect sense that he got to do Scream after because it was able to shine an entirely new light on what he was doing with
right.
the new.
If you were to release The New Nightmare with an A24 label on it right now, it would
Yeah,
be a box office smash.
Probably. Yeah, you're right there actually. And now you make me want to go back and rewatch it, which I might do tonight, to be
You know,
honest.
you know what's funny is I remember when that movie first came out, I it was released, it was in the theater for a week. I saw it on Friday and it was gone by Monday.
It did bomb, didn't it? It did.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's just was strange, but yeah, I mean, look at all these things. I guess the stuff, well, the thing,
Yeah.
Popular still jokes about that, like just ruining his career for a
Yeah.
moment. And yeah,
And
it's arguably considered like one of the best horror movies.
John Carpenter is either genius or total trash. There's no in between with him. Like he's got a lot of really garbage films, but stuff like The Thing or excuse me, one of my favorites is Prince of Darkness. I love that movie.
Me too. I'm a huge fan of it. That's such a sort of menacing kind of experience from start to finish,
Yes,
isn't it? And I always wanted to. Yeah, the ending always gets me. The
it
hand.
does.
I always
Yep.
want to see more. I kind of like, what's on the other side? Show me.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted that thing to come through the mirror.
I did.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I did. And I'd say, do you know what? If it was made in this day and age, you would be going into that world
You
probably
know,
for the last act of the movie.
I still find it funny though because in the movie, the messages and the visions that they're getting through their dreams are coming from 1999.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I think to myself, God,
Yeah.
oh, I mean, back then when the movie was released, that was so far into the future, right? Now
Yeah,
it's so far in the past,
I know. Yeah, it's just like the year I graduated from school.
right? Yeah, I graduated 5 years before that. So, and we were just talking about splatterpunk authors, and Kale Alistair, the gentleman I was talking to you about, it just joined the chat. So
No,
he's a great guy. I can say this without sounding weird, but I'm actually going to be in his next book as a character.
oh,
So I'm
very nice.
excited.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm
Yeah, I
excited.
would too.
So what's coming up that you're excited about, like movies, books, anything that you're looking forward to for the rest of the year?
No, but you know what? Like every week I go to the movies. There's a bunch of us. We're on a WhatsApp group, and we just kind of decide what to do, what to go. And this week we are going to go and see Salem's Lot. So because we just got it, I know you got it went straight to streaming in the US, straight to Max. We got it over here in theaters, so I'm gonna go see it.
I am really curious about it. I'm hesitant to watch it, but I was not a fan of the original. Like there's some really great things
Yeah,
about it, but overall it's pretty boring.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's a very slow burn.
I watched the original years ago, and yes, it was very very slow. But I still liked it. And again, it has like those when you watch these movies as a kid, the sort of the core memories are the
Right.
floating king
Yeah.
at the window. He's always still scares the shit out of you.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm going to give it a spin, and then this Salem's Lot this week, and then the following Monday, we have the Nightmare on Elm Street is being re-released in theaters here, so I'm going to
Oh,
catch that.
nice.
So even though I watched it recently, I do want to see it on the big screen because I never
Yeah.
saw
It's
it.
a totally different experience. I just last summer I went and saw Friday the 13th, the original from 1980 on the big screen
Nice.
because
Yeah,
it's a totally different experience.
completely. Yeah, and they're doing that quite a lot over here in Ireland at the moment. It's great. The most recent one I suppose that I saw, and I just loved it was the Terminator.
Yeah.
They released it for the 4K release, and yeah, I remember just sitting with the guys, and I was like, Jesus, this is bloody, really really good. It just felt like I was watching it for the first time, even though
Right.
I've seen it so many times. I
Yep.
can't even remember, can't keep count of how many times I've seen it, but it was just an entirely different experience on the big screen.
I did the same thing with The Exorcist when they re-released it for it was like the 25th anniversary or whatever that
Yeah,
they put it back out in theaters. I went and saw it the first weekend it was available because it's just an entirely different experience. And seeing it on, a 18-foot screen is so much
yeah.
different than watching it on a 35 or 32-inch TV,
Yeah,
right?
no, completely. Yeah, exactly. And I think it was it last year? Was it this year? I can't remember. It was last year. Or this year, Jaws got re-released, and they
Yeah.
did it in 3D here, and it was
Yep.
great just to go see that on the big screen. But yeah, anytime they do a re-release,
Yep.
I try to go see it. Like we're still the one we're always joking about is we have yet to have Predator. For some reason, there's been Terminator 2, Rambo, First Blood.
Right.
I was like, where's Predator? I want to go and see the Predator on the big
Right.
screen. because I never caught it. So I was always
They
meaning
do they do one thing here in the summer that's really cool is they will find a few spots in Florida where they rent out a park or something with a lake and they let you watch Jaws on the water on a
I
big
have
screen.
seen pictures of that, and that looks like a really great experience.
It would be one of two, right? It's either got to be Jaws or Piranha. Either one, because you're going to freak out about both.
Yeah, yeah. Right. I'm just looking here at the Aja remake, which I quite enjoyed as well. That was good
Yeah.
fun.
I love on Alexandra Aja's visual style. Like I loved Crawl. High
Yeah,
Tension
Crawl
was
was great.
beautiful.
Yeah,
I have a little bit of a problem with High Tension because it's almost a plot point for plot point ripoff of Intensity by Dean Koontz
I
in book form,
read about
but
that. Yeah, yeah,
it's still a solid movie. The
yeah,
movie's still good.
yeah. I remember. Well, yeah, I saw that one, and then I was Fright Fest. It was the same year that I saw Martyrs, and they were screening Mirrors, and that was fun, silly.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. I always remember the Amy Smart kill in the mirror was really really
It
nasty.
was brutal. Yeah, I absolutely love the movie Mirrors. It was so much fun.
Yeah, big time.
I just saw Martyrs because my co-host, it's one of his favorite films because he likes the ambiguous ending. That really gets him in a movie. Like he loves when it's not cut and dry. Um,
I've only seen it once, and I saw it that one time at Fright Fest because it was actually a guy I was working with, and I didn't even know Fright Fest was a thing. He was like, hey, I'm going to see this movie called Martyrs. Do you want to come? And I was like, where is it? Oh, it's Fright Fest. And then I was like, what is Fright Fest? And,
right.
and then as soon as he told me, I was like, I just booked a whole lot of tickets and went. And it was, yeah, I do remember watching that with an audience and Alan Jones kind of getting up beforehand saying, like, right, this is really tough to watch. So be prepared. So,
Yeah.
and everybody was just kind of
I was
watching it with it.
I was good until the when they started torturing, beating the main character because that went on a bit long for me.
It did. It was pretty relentless. And I think,
It
yeah,
was.
the reason why I only watched it once, I was like,
But
I'm
I mean,
done.
it makes sense to the story, right? Once you
Yeah,
get through it, you can understand why they show that. But
yeah,
even still, it was a rough watch for sure.
very much so. Yeah,
Are you are you a
mm.
fan of the French Extremities? Like Inside?
Do you know? Again, I've seen Inside just the once. I mean, I watch these things just, they make noise, and I seek them out. I watch them, but I'm indifferent to be perfectly honest. High Tension, I enjoyed. So
Yeah,
that's like, I I don't know. I watch them once and move on.
yeah. I used to be a big fan of Dean Koontz writing in the 90s,
Mm.
but then I realized every time he adapts one of his own books for a screenplay, he destroys it, and I hate it.
Yeah, I it's funny you should say it. Talk about Dean Koontz. Like it was only just last week I decided to rewatch Phantoms.
I was just gonna bring that up.
Yes, I did. I mean, it was on sale on Apple, and I was like, oh, I buy it because I want to watch it. And yeah, well, I remember. Yeah, I remember it. How clunky it was. And
The
there was
book,
one that
the
was going
book's
to say
amazing.
something. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. The
Oh,
book's
it's okay.
amazing, but the changes he made in the movie just don't make any sense.
Yeah. I haven't read the book, but I have definitely experienced the movie, and it is funny. But there was one that I remember as a kid. What was the Corey Haim one? Watchers, wasn't it? Was that the one?
Watchers, yeah.
Yeah. That one. I have just memories of that you know as a kid, discovering the cover in the
Yeah.
store and watching it. I don't even know, is that available?
I don't know to be honest. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah,
I haven't rewatched Watchers since it came out. I saw it the first time in its original run, and that was it.
yeah. It's popped into my head a few times, and I've gone looking for it, and I haven't been able to find it. Like, so
That
probably a crappy DVD somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure. I have one of my I love werewolf films, and it's so hard to find a good one, right? You have like Dog Soldiers, which was phenomenal.
Yeah.
We Are Wolves was pretty good. It was a fun horror comedy.
There's
But
one that I quite enjoyed. I mean, it's kind of hokey, but Howl, the one in the London train. Did you
see,
see
I
that
haven't
one?
seen that one yet. I keep meaning to watch it, and then for whatever reason, I never get a chance to.
I enjoyed it. Like it's a fun sort of. werewolf film. It's worth again. It's worth a watch.
Yeah.
Definitely.
If you like horror comedy, there's a movie called Big Bad Wolf with Kimberly J. Brown from like 2016. It's absolutely hysterical. I love that movie.
I think I've seen that. I look it up after this conversation.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun, especially here in the States. I don't know if Halloween Town is a big thing over there. It's a Disney movie franchise that she was in.
Okay, yeah,
And this is such a departure from that character or
right,
that storyline that I loved it. I love the fact that she broke out because she's a drinker and a partier and just
right.
so
Just
different.
completely against her sort of what she's known for. Then
Exactly. Exactly. Um, so what else? I'm trying to think of, so have you seen Late Night with the Devil yet?
I have not. No, it's on my list. I literally I'm looking here on the side of my screen. I keep every time I see stuff mentioned, I just add it to the list and slowly but surely work through it. You know.
Yeah. That one was different. I'll be perfectly blunt, there's one scene where if they would have ended the movie, it would have been utter perfection.
Hmm.
But then it continues and it changes a lot of what happens during the movie, which
Okay.
is not bad, but I had to give myself 3 days to sit with it before I was like, oh yeah, I kind of like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So in
So
general, I loved it.
yeah, it's on my list because I'm working through a whole bunch of stuff kind of for Halloween, trying to watch at least something every evening, and
Yeah.
it's on the list in the run up to the sort of the 31st.
Do you have any Halloween must-watches that you have to watch every season?
Yeah, it's a Nightmare on Elm Street definitely. Evil Dead 2, I love always kind of watch it, and those are the two that I always kind of seem to go back to. Um, actually another one I really enjoy is Halloween H2O. I really like that one.
Yeah, that's a fun one for sure.
Yeah, it's just again it kind of was around that time the Kevin Williamson yet again. He wrote the idea, but it's the story credit or whatever. But just yeah, around that time when we just got that boom again, and it was
And
part
that
of it. I love
I'm not gonna lie, there's even the first 15 to 20 minutes of Resurrection that I thought was genius
it.
because I went to see it in theaters and when he throws Laurie Strode off of a building, I screamed I'm like, it's about fucking time.
Yeah, yeah,
Everybody's like, shut up. I'm like, no, he's been hunting her for 25 years.
yeah. It was kind of that moment where you're like, well, I mean, he's probably due a win. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
it makes total sense.
I mean, it's amazing, right? Because if you think about all of the iconic characters, right? You have Freddy Krueger, who is a not likable character, but everybody loves him, right? If you remember back to why he
Yeah,
became the way he became,
yeah,
right?
completely. Like you look at his story that he's a child molester,
Exactly.
and it's like then by the time part three kicks in, he's this pun,
Yeah,
wielding comedian, and
right.
it's just like wow, holy shit. But that's a testament to Robert Englund, I think, really, isn't
Oh, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. I love the evolution of the Freddy character. And even Jason, right? My favorite Friday the 13th, my favorite two Friday the 13th are part 7, which is The New Blood, which is
it? Yeah,
the one with the girl with telekinesis.
yeah. My favorite one is the one before that, part six.
Right.
So
And
basically,
it's not terrible, right? I mean, well, it's not that it's not terrible. It's so schlocky that it's fun, right?
yeah,
And then you go to Jason X.
yeah.
I love that movie. I don't
I
care
think
how
it's
stupid it is.
no. I think Todd Farmer did a hell of a job of that. I mean, it was just it knew exactly what it was doing, and it
Yep.
was just great fun from start to finish. Plus, we get David Cronenberg as well at the start,
Right.
and I do enjoy kind of watching him again. He was I really liked him in Nightbreed. That was
Oh
something
yeah.
else. But yeah, I
Absolutely.
think for me, Jason Lives, the Tommy McLaughlin one, it
Yeah.
was just so. I guess it was very tongue in cheek in a sense.
Yeah, it
It
was.
was a great watch.
I absolutely have to agree. And you have to appreciate that, right? When a series knows it's jumping the shark and it just leans into it really hard,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
and just has fun with it. Like with Jason X, for instance, I knew the minute um the minute he was they were, trying to take the mask off and you saw her dip the things in the cryo. I'm like, if they don't use that for a kill scene, then
yeah,
this is a wasted film, but they did.
yeah.
And I don't know, are you a sci-fi fan at all?
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this is something that I picked up on that nobody else that I know of has ever noticed, but the pilot and the and or the Alexa Dogue, who plays the doctor, and the android were on a TV show in the 90s called Babylon 5. No,
Okay.
not Babylon 5. Oh my God. Oh, come on. I'm blanking right now. Andromeda with Kevin,
Oh, yes, yes.
right? But their roles were reversed. Alexa Dogue was the AI and the android, and the girl that played the android, I think her name's her last Lisa Ryder,
Hmm.
was the pilot of this ship. And I absolutely love that they reversed roles in that.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that tickled the hell out of me, and it instantly cemented me enjoying that film.
It is a good film, and I believe Arrow Video are going to be doing a special edition, probably hopefully that features packed, so that'd be kind of cool. Like,
Yeah,
I really like Top Farmer as a fighter as well. I mean, the My Bloody Valentine remake was good fun. Drive Angry was good fun.
yeah, Driving Groove's
You
good.
know, just I enjoy his style.
The early 2010s with their remakes was not a hit for me. Like when they brought Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki into Friday the 13th. I do not like the Friday the 13th remake for one reason.
Hmm.
They make Jason take prisoners. He never did.
Yeah,
That's a step too
yeah,
far for me.
yeah. It
And
was
then
a
My
strange
Bloody
one.
Valentine. I don't know. I love the original, but the remake just fell flat.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I suppose, yeah, at the time, I was kind of just enjoyed them for what they were. You know, like
Yeah.
they were very flashy,
Yes. Very polished, but
very exactly super polished.
yeah.
You know, no expense spared. Let's take that down and dirty '80s movie that you saw and make it all CW shiny.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. That's exactly the reason. It's not a bad thing that they did that because I know that I'll give you for instance, right? I saw Lisa Frankenstein.
Yeah,
And
good film.
well, everybody loved it, right? Or well, I should say it was not a box office hit, but that movie is going to become the Edward Scissorhands for this generation, right? Edward Scissorhands bombed in the box office,
Mm.
but it's a cult classic now because everybody loves it. And I feel like Lisa Frankenstein is going to be that for this generation. It wasn't that for me, but I think it's
Yeah,
going to be for this generation.
that's interesting you say that because that's cool. I hope it does because I enjoyed it. I thought it was really I liked it. It felt so Burtony, you know, everywhere.
Exactly. Yep. And that's exactly how I felt when I walked out of it. I'm like, I wasn't crazy about the movie, but that is going to be something someday.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely. So, do you have any recommendations for me? Anything you think I should watch, or I mean, other than I want to look up Killer Mermaid because I actually watched the trailer before you popped on, and I'm like, that looks really good. I have to look that one up.
Yeah, yeah. I don't like any recommendations. I mean, I will say like I'm watching a lot of old stuff.
Yeah.
I go to the movies, like I said, every week, but nothing has really stuck with me that's made me think, oh, I need to tell somebody to watch this movie. It's great. The ones that I enjoy most are the reissues of classic
Yeah,
stuff.
I agree.
I find I don't know. There's some cool stuff right now, but maybe I'm just a bit pining for the old days, which is why I want to always go back and watch the old stuff. I'm not so sure.
I actually had this exact conversation with somebody last week, and I said, I don't find myself rewatching any films like prior to 2010. Like, and
Mm.
I don't know why. It's got to have a nostalgia factor or something because I'll watch it and then it's gone, right? It just kind of it's okay.
Yeah, yeah,
The first movie that I can remember rewatching was Late Night with the Devil because I wanted my mother to watch it because I thought she'd love it, and she did.
yeah.
Um, but
But
other
that's
than
the
that,
thing. Yeah, I exactly. That's it's so true. I go to the movies or I watch stuff at home, and I watch them and I enjoy them, but then I forget about them the next day.
right?
Nothing that's kind of sticks with me. But I always will go back to the stuff that I watched as a
Yep.
kid. And maybe that's just these memories, these movie memories that just
Right.
make you want to go back there. You know, where were you? Like where were you? Like I'm trying to think like the Monster Squad. I'll watch that. I know I'll watch that before Halloween's over because I just love that. And then one of my like all-time favorite movies is The Crow. I mean, Jesus, I watched it so many times. I'll watch that at the end of this month as well.
So how do you, okay, if you like The Crow, how do you feel about The Wraith?
A bit which?
The Wraith with Charlie Sheen.
Funny you mentioned that. Watched it recently, maybe about a month back. Kind of liked it again.
Yeah.
I remember. I do always remember the video cover. It had that amazing kind of cover, and it was
Yes.
kind of like embossed. I think they had lights on it at one point. The UK VHS one, and there was a great quad of it. A very very cool poster. Anyway, and
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I liked it. And God, what remind me of his name? Nick Casav. Is it Nick Casavetes?
Cassavetes, I think.
Yeah, he was the villain, isn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I'll be honest, I like The Wraith more than The Crow. The Crow's a
Really?
The Crow is a good movie, and I don't know why. I don't know why I enjoy The Wraith more, but it to me
Yeah, I do. I
I
remember watching again. That was one of those ones you kind of discover as a kid,
yes,
based off the box. Like you walk in and you
yep,
rent it on a weekend. It's
exactly.
like that
Yep.
one.
Exactly. So I do want to say thank you very much, Barry, for joining us today. This has been a blast, and I
Yeah,
hope we
no,
get to talk to you again soon because I have enjoyed the hell out of this conversation, and I can't wait to dive into your work this week because I definitely want
likewise.
to watch Killer Mermaid and Downhill now for sure.
Likewise. And listen, thank you so much for taking the time, especially I know it's a Sunday and everybody kind of likes to chill out. So I really appreciate it, and we appreciate the support from the film as well. Thank
Yeah,
you.
anytime. So for those people that don't know, if Barry is one of the co-writers of Invoking Yell, which when is that going to be released on streaming or is it out already?
It's on streaming now. Yeah, yeah, you can buy it now.
Okay. So
And
it is a found footage movie that's set in the 90s about a black metal band that goes into the woods and gets up to some shenanigans. So
yeah,
if found footage is your thing, check it out. I love the end of this movie. It's regardless of what you think for the rest of the movie, the end saved it all for me. Like no matter what problems I had before that, it
yeah.
was fantastic.